Welcome, everyone.
All right, so we have quorum, so we're going to get started right away. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Todd Leader. I'm the Vice President, the outgoing Vice President. So we'll call the meeting to order, and we'll move straight into the land acknowledgement. If Alec can put that up. I would like to begin by acknowledging that I am an uninvited guest, living and working on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, whose inherent rights were recognized in the peace and friendship treaties that were signed with the Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, and Passamaquoddy peoples from 1725 to 1779. This series of treaties did not surrender Indigenous land, resources, or sovereignty to the British Empire, but instead established rules for an ongoing relationship between nations. The treaties were later affirmed by Canada in Section 35 of the Constitution Act, 1982, and remain active to this day. Let us take this time to pause in reflection and gratitude for the land where we live and work. The Nova Scotia College of Social Workers commits to translating this acknowledgement into action by seeking to implement the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action, especially those regarding education. We commit to doing what we can to become better treaty partners. We commit to learning and to unlearning. Okay, so let's move on now to approval of the agenda. So can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Sorry, Todd, let's just do logistics again for votes.
Again.
So folks, we are online again this year. Right now, everyone is muted and they can't have turn their cameras on. So to vote or to make a motion, you can do a couple of things. You can either use the icons to raise your hand. You can put a note in the chat. Once a motion is made and then seconded, anyone can speak to it. And we will have discussion until discussion is exhausted, and then Todd will ultimately call a question. To vote, you can either raise your hand or there's a check mark as well. And Todd is going to just be calling the people who are opposed to the motion to make it simpler.
Okay, thank you, Alec. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda? I see somebody.
We got Donna and Rochelle, so moved and seconded.
Yeah, it didn't pop up the way it normally does. Anyway, okay, it's all right. And so anyone opposed? Okay, agenda approved. And so let's go to the meeting minutes from the annual general meeting of 2022.
So I did just put the minutes in the chat for folks to review and look at. Okay. So once you're comfortable, if we can make the motion.
All right. So who would like to move approval of the minutes of last year's AGM? Rochelle. Oh, I haven't seen that name in a long time. I miss you, Rochelle. And Rose, thank you very much. And so is anyone opposed to approving the minutes? Any abstentions? Thank you. Minutes approved. All right. Now we'll move into the main business of the meeting. So we'll start with the president's report, which will be delivered in some form by Alec, as our president was unable to be here.
Actually, our president recorded a message for you all. So we are going to hear from Lynn to deliver her report.
I forgot she was doing.
If someone can give me a thumbs up once I hit play that you're hearing the sound, that would be great.
Welcome. to this year's
Got it.
AGM. I'm so pleased to report that the Nova Scotia College of Social Workers has accomplished a great deal in 2022. Throughout the year, our organization has focused on key areas that are of utmost importance to the public and aligned with our values as a profession. One of our primary priorities has been to continue to develop our approach as a right touch regulator by building on a foundation of good regulation principles and adding a touch of agility. Right touch regulation ensures that risk to the public is minimized without compromising effectiveness. The college has continued our commitment to reconciliation and anti-racism, recognizing the important role social workers play in addressing systemic inequalities. We were proud to work with our partners at the Canadian Association of Social Workers to continue to revise the National Code of Ethics and Guidelines for Ethical Practice. The last revision occurred in 2005, and much has changed during that time. It's important to revisit these fundamental documents as much has changed in the last 18 years. The Social Work Code of Ethics need to reflect new understandings and knowledge and address the social worker's special role in the journey of reconciliation with Indigenous people. We are hopeful that the new Code of Ethics will lead to deeper reconciliation. We also continue to work with the Canadian Council of Social Work Regulators in an effort to address pervasive and detrimental effects of racism in social work regulation. Through collaboration with the Anti-Racist Regulatory Practice Framework Working Group, this Canadian regulatory body aims to critically reflect upon policies and processes and develop regulatory tools to assist in dismantling systemic and structural racism in regulation and practice. Further, the college has spent a great deal of time and effort in the area of building a regulatory framework for clinical social work in effort to strengthen regulation in this area and again, develop regulatory tools to assist address systemic and structural racism. Further on the regulatory theme, I'm so very pleased with the work we have done to enhance our professional development policy and offerings. In 2022, following consultation with our members, the college introduced significant change to the professional development requirements for social workers. The aim of the new regulation was threefold: provide clarity of expectation and support to social workers in their journey towards successful registration, promote professional competency of registrants, and ultimately safeguard the public. These changes were grounded in the Professional Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice, aligned with accredited social work curricula, and consistent with the Nova Scotia Regulated Health Professions Network recommendations. They reflect the most evidence-based research and developments in the field, ensuring that practitioners meet the highest standards of care and services. We also continue to make a concerted effort for social workers to experience a clear, smooth, and successful renewal process. As you all know, our college has a dual mandate. It is both a regulatory body and has association functions. As such, advocacy is core to our mandate, as it is core to our ethics and practice as social workers. We have continued to have an active voice and presence in advocating for social justice, particularly in the areas of poverty, mental health, and child welfare. We have been laser focused on attending our strategic plan and have engaged partners and community organizations in completing projects specific to these three areas of focus. And we have made significant accomplishments, which Alec will detail next in his Executive Director Registrar's report. I believe we all can agree Nova Scotia's mental health and substance use services needs a new approach, one that acknowledges the complexity of mental health needs and the impact of its social context. That's why our college is taking action to support the repositioning of mental health and substance abuse services through a biopsychosocial spiritual model. Advocating for social policies that lead to social justice is crucial to creating a better future for children, youth, and families in Nova Scotia. And through strategic partnerships with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives and the Nova Scotia Action for Community Wellbeing, we have achieved some important wins, and our message is resonating throughout the province. We know poverty has a huge impact on childhood development, and family income is a major factor in dictating development. And importantly, if we truly want to achieve child and family well-being in this province, we must invest in and support our kids, their families, caregivers, and service providers, inclusive of social workers. We have worked with the Department of Community Services to build a new child welfare practice framework that we hope will have promising outcomes. We believe it can if it is funded and resourced appropriately. And we have also contracted with Wisdom to Action, a social enterprise organization, to lead a consultation process aimed at identifying ways to improve the child welfare system here in Nova Scotia, including, and very importantly, the need for the path forward needs to respect and value the role of the social worker and value the profession in the field of child welfare. If we truly want improved and positive outcomes for vulnerable children, youth, and their families in this province, we must take an approach that values, invests, supports our child welfare workers in the critical, challenging work that they do. In closing, I'm incredibly proud of the work of our staff and volunteers. We are committed to creating a better future for children and families in Nova Scotia through strategic partnerships with organizations dedicated to promoting justice and well-being. As the president of the college, I could not be more honored to serve the public interest by helping advance evidence-based policy solutions grounded in principles of equity, human rights, inclusion, and respect. Our team is passionate about making a positive impact on communities across Nova Scotia. I believe together we will continue working toward a brighter tomorrow for all, and I truly thank you for the work that you do each and every day on behalf of Nova Scotians.
That was a good way to do that as Lynn is off on her travels. Okay, so can I have a motion to accept the president's report?
We've got, I think, I don't, okay.
Linda, and do we have a seconder?
I saw thumbs up and applause, but I'm not sure that that's an indication of a seconder. Okay,
so
great.
Linda and Donna, that's great. And sorry, I've just got to change my view here so that I can see the hands coming up. For some reason, I lost that. Here we are. Okay. And so anybody opposed to accepting Lynn's report?
Sorry, Todd, just before you call the question, a moment, if there's any questions or a dialogue or comments before we call the question.
All right. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none then, is anyone opposed to accepting Lynn's report? Any abstentions? All right, that report has been received and accepted. So now we move on to Alec, Executive Director and Registrar report.
Folks, I am so tremendously proud to greet you all today. Again, we've had an extraordinary day yesterday with rich learning, achieved. Again, a tribute to our staff. I cannot thank them enough. Naj Zaritsky is joining us, who leads a lot of our engagement efforts. I see Suzanne and Rebecca both here as well, who have done a phenomenal job at helping to plan, coordinate, support you, me, Naj, everyone involved. I see Valerie online as well, who is our extraordinary regulatory and candidacy manager. And none of this work could come to life without the work of staff that make me look really good. And I appreciate them incredibly, as I do all of the volunteers of the college. We are well over 100 serving and growing. Your passion and dedication drives us and inspires us to continue to, again, achieve the type of change that we want to see and regulate the profession in the best interest. Lynn outlined many of our initiatives that we've been taking in the last year. I wanted to dive in a little bit to really speak to some of the real success that we've had this year in terms of our advocacy efforts. I do want to start, before I dive into our advocacy efforts, to acknowledge again the growth of the profession in Nova Scotia. You'll see when we hear from the Board of Examiners that we are close to 2,700 members now. And part of that is, again, the strength of our academic programs in Nova Scotia. So again, we saw 2 new programs come online this year, a significant achievement by the Cape Breton University crew and team to onboard a new social work program there, as well as kudos to our friends at the Dalhousie School of Social Work, who were able to introduce and onboard a new Afrocentric social work program, which will be crucial to being able to ensure greater diversity in the profession and, again, a significant commitment towards anti-Black racism in this province, particularly in the delivery of social work practice. I just want to take some time to acknowledge that when we work together, when we set goals, and when we are persistent and do not back away from issues, change is possible. And I want to highlight 3 of those for you right now. So the first is that we are expecting to see legislation introduced this year for a Child and Youth Commission, which will play the role of a Child Youth Advocate Office in Nova Scotia. Again, folks, this is an accomplishment that can be traced back to the efforts of members and the college in terms of raising this as a political, in the political discourse, ensuring that folks were aware of how, again, significant it would be to children and youth in this province. And through a coordinated strategic effort, we were able to advance this issue. I had the great pleasure of working with government in the fall to be able to make the final recommendations to the minister on the legislation and the operations of this new office. Again, a significant achievement for children and youth in this province and the protection of their rights. That would not happen without the work of the college and all of you. I also want to mention and recognize the significant work that was done by members of our former Child Welfare Committee that then branched off into the Child Welfare Advocacy Coalition for almost 6 years ago now, raising the crucial issue of the Child Canada benefits for kids in care. For folks who aren't aware what was happening within the province is that if a child is brought into temporary care, the birth families lose that child tax benefit, and the province starts to collect it. For many folks, that can represent up to 60% of their income. And it provided a huge acute financial stress for families who are striving towards reunification, who lost financial resources. Well, we didn't create the perfect fix. What we did do is advocate strongly and loudly, strategically, both from within inside the system. Many social workers and child welfare were making this loud and clear, as we did outside in the media with other partners. And the province onboarded in March of this year the Family Stability Payment Program, which will guarantee families whose kids are in care at least $500 a month, which isn't, again, as I said, a perfect fix, but a significant one, and one that can be attributed to the work of this organization, our members, and it speaks to the importance structural change that we can create. And the last one, again, significant work done by the college. Lynn mentioned it in her report, coming out again of the inquiry as well. But it's been long overdue to have a practice framework in child welfare that spoke to the values of the profession. We worked really hard with the government over the summer to be able to craft that framework. They made significant revisions based on members' input and the college's input directly. And that framework is now in existence and is meant to transform how we deliver child welfare. Now, as Lynn mentioned, that fight is not over. In order for us to achieve that, it has to be properly funded and resourced accordingly. And our college is dedicated to continuing to work with government to make sure that that is in place. I mentioned the incredible staff. I'm going to mention them again. We would not be where we were today without the dedication of staff. We are growing as well. We added a new position this year to help with the growth of the profession and to manage some of the internal workload stress. And again, we would not be here without the work of staff. We are entering a new chapter as well. We are completing our 5-year strategic plan this year. We are currently evaluating that with the help of some consultants. So we'll have good data to be able to present back. And that'll lead us into the creation of a new strategic plan, which will again set our goals and outcomes for the next 5 years. I look forward to engaging with members over the fall to be able to help craft and create that vision, and then ultimately create that roadmap for where we need to go. There is no doubt that reconciliation, anti-racism, and social justice will be paramount in that, as will be the pursuit of clinical regulation. Folks, I remain incredibly proud to serve the public interest, to serve all of you. You inspire me on a daily basis. I am motivated by your energy and passion, and I really thank you for empowering me and trusting me in this position as well. I'm happy to answer any questions once the motion is tabled.
Okay, thank you, Alec. Lots of good information for folks. So let's look for a motion to accept Alec's report. And so Maggie and Rochelle are the first two. Thank you very much. And so questions, comments, discussion. Feel free to either raise your hand. I see Anamika there. So can we unmute?
Yeah, we can unmute. It's not working for me, Rebecca. How do I unmute Anamika?
Rebecca needs to be made co-host.
I thought she was.
Yeah.
There you
go. Okay.
Anamika, I've sent you a request to unmute.
Okay.
There you
are.
Hi.
Hi, Anamika. Go right ahead.
So I raised my hand to actually to support the motion.
Oh, okay.
I'm not clear what I'm supposed to do.
Oh, we thought you wanted to make a comment or ask a question, so that's why we unmuted you. Okay.
No, thank you.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. So does anybody want to, if you want to speak, raise your hand and we will muddle our way through unmuting you. And if not, feel free to write a comment or a question in the chat and we'll respond to that. Okay. Well, assuming there's none, then is anyone opposed to the motion to receive? Oh, here Rose has something to say. Can we unmute Rose? There we go. Rose, you're on.
Hi, I just can everyone hear me? I wasn't sure.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that it often goes unsaid, Alec, that you're thanking people, but I wanted to publicly say how tremendously changed and how your work has truly motivated, I think, all of us, the association, the college, the energy that you have brought to the role. I think we made such a great decision when you were hired. So I just want to publicly say that it's meant a great deal to all of us. And thank you for your efforts as well.
Thank you, Rose. I'm honored by that. It is a good fit, that's for sure.
And we have several comments coming in now, agreeing and cheering on that comment. So that's great. I think that there's probably pretty strong consensus that Rose's comment is accurate. And I've told Alec several times over the past few years that he is the best executive director that I've ever witnessed in person of all the committees and boards and things I've been on. And he's the most effective that I've seen. So
I am humbled by folks' words. Again, it is of course, a calling. I think many of us feel to serve, and my skill set happens to line up with that calling. So I'm happy to be here and happy to serve.
Well, I think it's especially true on the advocacy and social change kind of stuff, because I think you are naturally a strategic pain in the ass for anybody that's in the way of social change.
Yes, stubborn is how I got labeled a lot, and persistent. So, yeah.
Okay.
But incredibly kind and compassionate as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. All right. I'm assuming then this motion is carried. Okay. So now we're going to move on to the Board of Examiners report with Jack Vanderbilt. So over to you, Jack, once you're unmuted.
Oh, sorry, Jack, you're still muted there. I think you have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
We got you.
All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, as I was trying to say there, the Board of Examiners has been exceptionally busy this past year with the surge of applications for private practice and the introduction of new telepractice procedures. Despite this mounting workload, the board is thrilled to announce that we have achieved an impressive 85% compliance rate with the candidacy mentorship program requirements. Our diligent staff and the dedicated board members have remained committed to upholding the standards of good regulation as outlined in the Nova Scotia Regulated Health Professions Network. As specialists in our field, we take pride in delivering services, ensuring that applicants and professionals alike have a thorough understanding of the requirements and the expectations of the profession. The Board of Examiners is dedicated to recruiting new members who represent a diverse cross-section of social work practice. Intersectional identities are at the forefront of our priorities, and we strive to ensure that members from a variety of cultural backgrounds and geographical regions are represented. Our goal always is to make certain that all sectors of social work are reflected, including child welfare, mental health and addictions, medical social work, the all-important community sector, and private practice. This helps ensure that social work expertise is always available when decisions that impact public safety need to be made. We believe that our board represents the best of social work practice in Nova Scotia, and we are very honored to serve the public interest. Now, electronic social work practice has, of course, become increasingly popular this year and over the course of the pandemic. And these are times where access to mental health care continues to be hard to achieve. However, it's important to note that these practices are regulated by the Social Workers Act in Nova Scotia and the regulations. Social workers from other parts of Canada who wish to engage in electronic social work practice with clients in Nova Scotia can now apply to the Nova Scotia College of Social Workers with a simple verification process and a reduced fee. This ensures that clients in Nova Scotia receive safe, ethical, and high-quality services from professionals who meet the standards that are set by the province. As social work continues to evolve and grow, it's important to keep in mind that the regulations and the guidelines that protect both clients and practitioners are solidly in place. As I touched on earlier, 3 years ago, the Nova Scotia College of Social Workers found itself in a very difficult position with regard to candidacy standards. Compliance was well under 50%, indicating a need for improvement. However, since then, we have made significant strides and are proud to say that we have achieved an impressive 85% compliance rate. This turnaround, of course, did not happen by chance. We made it a priority to communicate with candidates and provide them with necessary resources to help them to begin their mentorship process, which is crucial to their professional growth as social workers. We are thrilled to see a major improvement in compliance rates, and we look forward to continuing our efforts to engage our candidates. The Nova Scotia College of Social Workers implementation of the Nova Scotia Regulated Health Professions Network sets a high standard for good practice within the healthcare profession regulation, maintaining accurate public information about registrants, requirements, guidance, processes, and decisions is critical in ensuring transparency and accountability. We have made updates in our website and in our registry to try to ensure this. The importance of anti-racism policy within regulation is also acknowledged, with efforts made to minimize any barriers faced by racialized applicants and the public. This year, we continued the work on a framework for anti-racist regulation within the Canadian Council of Social Work Regulators. Consultation with stakeholders is valued as it helps to identify and manage risks related to registrants. Ensuring the client care and safety is always the top priority. We continue to engage with the community on core issues of social work practice, including child welfare, mental health, and issues related to poverty. We have a commitment to reporting on performance and concerns and demonstrating good governance practices. We outline risks or decisions being made in our bi-weekly newsletter and in the blog, as well as the annual report. By providing guidance and clarifying the professional development requirements this year, the board's intention with this new policy is to see growth in quality practice amongst social workers, while ensuring that there were enough professional development opportunities to help social workers to meet the requirements. Overall, the standards set out by the Nova Scotia Regulated Health Professions Network place a high value, of course, as mentioned, on accountability, transparency, and above all, the safety and the care of clients and citizens. We continue to strive to bring transparent and objectively fair processes for registration, and we believe that these are essential to ensure the integrity of our profession. As a regulatory board, our top priority is ensuring the safety of the public. We understand that every applicant operates within a unique context, and therefore we strive to apply minimum standards for safe practice in a way that is appropriate to their situation. Our approach to risk assessment is meticulous and thoughtful so that we can be sure to implement the right regulations based on the level of risk posed to the public. We believe in the principle of right touch regulation, taking the time to fully understand the problem before jumping to a solution. In doing so, we ensure that the value of regulation is proportionate to the level of risk and never excessive. We hold ourselves to the highest standards of good regulation and the added element of agility to help us to stay nimble and responsive to the ever-changing needs of our province. I have to say that this concept of right touch regulation, which Lysandra may remark on as well, has been so key to the approach that we take with the board generally in our decisions, and also with the complaints committee, which I'm also part of. And I think that I have to say something about how important it has been to have legal representation available to us. This is something that came along with ALEC, as did many other good things, as mentioned. And I think to practice regulatory, any of the regulatory practices in Nova Scotia in 2023 and moving forward, we need to have good legal guidance. We have it now. It's crucial. I know there's a big bill to be paid for that. I appreciate council and ALEC for allowing those of us who are volunteers and are trying to make these decisions to have guidance to make the appropriate decisions. So I just wanted to really highlight that. I'll just close by saying that the Nova Scotia College of Social Workers' commitment to the safety and care of the clients has been unwavering. We've continued to strive for transparency and objectively fair processes for registration that ensure the integrity of the profession, as well as minimum standards for safe practice. With our approach to risk assessment being meticulous and thoughtful, we can implement regulations based on the level of risk actually posed while keeping with that right touch regulation approach. And that's really at the heart of it. Our efforts in the past year have led us, as mentioned, to that really impressive 85% compliance rate within the candidacy mentorship program. I would mention that we have had discussions on the board about how much of the mentorship is being done by a relatively small percentage of the members. So I would urge people to consider and investigate how they might be able to contribute to mentoring in Nova Scotia. Our focus on professional development with quality practice among social workers has always kept the top priority for the board. We look forward to continuing these efforts in 2023 and onward so that the college remains a leader in healthcare regulation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jack, and thank you for the time you put in, you and the committee members. It's appreciated, and certainly not always easy work. Okay, so can we have a motion to accept Jack's report? Okay, we have Sherry and Jim Morton. Thank you. And so any questions for Jack? Any comments? Any discussion of anything that he has presented? Okay, hearing none, then is anyone opposed to receiving this report? And any abstentions? All right, motion carried. Again, thank you, Jack, to you and the Board of Examiners. Okay, we're moving on to the Complaints Committee, and excuse me, and handing the mic over to Lysandra. Lysandra is the chair of the committee. So, and as I learned today, the first non-social worker, the first community member chair of this committee for us. So thank you for volunteering and being part of this for us, Lysandra. And over to you.
Thanks so much, Todd. Can everyone hear me? So I don't think that a lot of you know me. So my name is Lysandra Naranjo. I am, as Todd said, I'm the current chair of the Complaints Committee and the public appointed member. Currently, the committee is made up of 4 individuals. There's 3 social workers and 1 public member. That's myself. What I'd like to do briefly is go over the role of the Complaints Committee, get into some statistics about what we've been seeing here, and then highlight some common complaints and trends that we have that we're noticing. The mandate of the college, as we all know, is to serve and protect the public interest, preserve the integrity of social work profession, and to maintain the public confidence in the ability of the social work profession to regulate itself. And this mandate is achieved by regulating the practice of social work, in part through its legislative power to address complaints involving allegations of professional misconduct, conduct unbecoming the profession, incompetency, and or breach of the code of ethics. The process of receiving, investigating, and resolving these complaints is the work of the Complaints Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Board of Examiners. The Complaints Committee is obligated to investigate every complaint that is made within the college's jurisdiction. And the complaints that we receive each year vary in complexity. Some are simple to resolve, while others deal with more complex issues, such as fitness to practice issues, documentation practices, confidentiality breaches, and professional boundaries violations. So some statistics that may be of interest to everyone. In 2022, the Complaints Committee dealt with 34 complaints. Of these 34 complaints, 28 were new complaints and 6 were carried over from 2021. We saw an increase of 7 new complaints in comparison to 2021, where we had received 21 new complaints. And we saw a decrease in carried over complaints as compared to 2021, where 14 complaints were carried over from 2020. And the committee rendered decisions on 20 of these complaints, and 14 were carried over into 2023. The majority of the complaints that we received in 2022 came from service users directly. However, we also received complaints from employers, third-party complaints, and by the registrar of the college. And in 2022, there were, in particular, there were 22 client complaints, 6 complaints by employers, 4 were third-party, and 2 were by the registrar of the college. And the majority of complaints came from the child welfare sector. And one of the most common areas where we see complaint arising surround communication with clients. And that includes also lack of communication. And a lack of communication, or communication where the client feels unheard, disrespected, dismissed, gives rise to complaints surrounding issues of professionalism, bias, competency, among others. 2 other less common complaints, but which we are seeing more and more, is a blurring or a crossing of professional boundaries, and as well as conduct unbecoming, in particular in the context of social media and conduct online. So things that are said, views expressed on social media, and things like that. And we're seeing a lot of issues arising due to burnout, which impacts the social worker's ability to cope with more and more levels of stress in everyday life, as well as increased workload due to a variety of reasons. The amount of time that it takes to resolve these complaints or deal with a complaint vary with the complexity of the complaint. Issues surrounding boundary violations, for example, would take a long time to investigate when compared to issues surrounding communication. And as Jack mentioned, something that the Complaints Committee has been has tried to be very focused on in our approach to investigating and resolving these complaints. He mentioned the right touch regulation approach, which is what, and we do try to implement that as much as possible, try to understand the problem from all the angles and the context that it arises before jumping into a solution right away, and trying to find the right way to resolve the complaint that is fair to both the social worker and the complainant. So having said that, I would encourage everyone to review the Code of Ethics, Standards of Practice, contact the college if there are any questions surrounding your practice that you wish to clarify, and to also take care of yourself as much as you can. And those are my comments, unless there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Lysandra. So let's start with a motion to accept Lysandra's report. Okay, Jackie, thank you. And seconder?
I'll take that thumbs up from Crystal as a seconder.
Okay.
Or we got Rochelle put her hand up. Yeah.
Got Rochelle there too. Okay. All right. So let's move into questions. And so there's one that has been posted by Raquel Griffin. Maybe a silly question, but 13 dismissals, does that mean complaints dismissed for RSWs dismissed from the college or profession?
No, that means 13 dismissals means that the 13 complaints were dismissed because found by the complaints committee to have been any breach or any issues with the social worker themselves.
So it's the complaint that's dismissed, not the
complaint that is dismissed.
social worker.
Yes.
I could see how that language would be confusing. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's the complaint. Yeah.
Kind of employment language, dismissed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments for Lysandra? No. Okay. I assume that's difficult work sometimes, trying to sort through this, and so we certainly appreciate the work of the committee and the number of hours that have to be put in. So thank you, Lysandra. And okay, Shireen Singer is suggesting that we use unsubstantiated instead of dismissed. So it's something to consider.
Yeah, appreciate that. Shireen, we are bound by the language that's in the Act at this moment in time, as that's the legal framework that we have. But certainly, and that's the common language used in regulation. But I take the point in reports. Perhaps we can communicate that in a different way.
Right. Yeah, I think it's about just clarifying that it's the complaint that it was dismissed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it, Linda. That's my point too. Yeah. Other questions, other comments? Okay. Then is anyone opposed to accepting Lysandra's report? Any abstentions? Motion carried. And now we're going to move on to Kate Matheson, and she's going to talk to us about everyone's favorite topic, money.
Thank you, Todd. I will say that I'm still not much of a numbers person. So for all the future treasurers out there, you can do this without being a numbers person. Thanks. So I do have just a really quick presentation. Alec, if you could put it up for me.
Yeah. Just working on that.
I'll just introduce myself. I'm Kate Matheson. I'm the college council treasurer, which I have been for a few years. And I just want to, being not a numbers person, echo thanks for Alec and Lynn and all the staff at the college and my fellow council members, because I certainly couldn't do it without them. And if you have any questions about my presentation or my role on council or council itself, please feel free to reach out anytime. So just as we all know, we have rising costs of living. Everybody's feeling it. And I think as social workers, we're keenly aware that this is particularly difficult for folks who are living in poverty. You can move ahead there, Alec. The rental market, real estate, groceries, nothing is sort of safe from increasing costs of inflation. And so as a college, our costs are also rising. You can find a detailed account of our finances in the annual report. And so I'm just going to touch on some of the highlights, but there will be time for questions if anybody has any. So in 2022, we once again reached the mark of $1 million revenue organization. Our revenues totaled $1 million to $80,026. We have increased our revenue due to a modest fee increase. So last year we had a 0.5% increase in our fees. We have some advertising revenue, which is new, relatively new for the college. And we also have a new telepractice registration fee, and that has provided us with some substantially higher revenue this year. And okay, moving on. In terms of our expenses, you're not going to find anything too exciting there. Our spending is on track. One thing of note is that our legal fees are down, and so thanks to the expertise and overall knowledge of our staff and our volunteers on the complaints committee and the board of examiners, we've been able to keep our legal fees down this year, which is great. But our bookkeeping fees are up, and so this is sort of the balance that we're looking for here in terms of costs rise and then some thankfully go down. So this year we're looking at a surplus of $84,000 with continued investments in our professional development and advocacy efforts. You'll find in the annual report there's a handy visual called Where Does the Money Go? And so you'll see here that our primary cost is in our primary mandate, which is protection of the public, so our regulation, and then administrative and member services come close behind at 26 and 24% respectively. We are spending 14% on promotion and 9% on our special projects. So if you have any questions about sort of the details of that, you can look at the annual report, or you can reach out to myself or Alex with any questions. And then moving on to our financial standing, we're in a strong position going forward, which is consistent with our last few years. And you know, I think we've all been singing the praises of staff in particular in regard to this, because there's some really excellent management going on in all respects, and also for our finances. So both our operational and discipline reserve funds are within the expectations of college policy. The operational reserve fund has an equivalent of 3 to 6 months of funding, and that's where it's supposed to be to cover the costs of unforeseen expenses and any financial commitments. And council is required to approve any withdrawal from these reserve accounts. So then you know that that you also have membership accountability there. Our total assets as of December 31st were $1,776,662. And so at this point, I'm going to introduce a representative of Lyle Tilley Davidson, which is our the accounting firm that we use for our audit.
So Graham is with us. Graham Sweets, thanks for joining us. Your first year with us. Happy to turn it over to you. I do have your statements that I can put up for folks to look at as well.
Oh, all right. Well, thanks, Alec and Kate. You did quite an impressive job presenting the numbers there. So I really probably don't have a huge amount to add, but I'm the partner on the file, and we perform the audit of the financial statements, and you know, most of what Kate said, you know, I kind of echo that, but I'll just take a brief moment to probably just go through the statement of financial position and the statement of operating revenues and expenses. So Alex, I'm not sure if you're going to share those on the screen or
yeah, I'm going to put them up. Yeah, I'm going to put them up for you.
Oh, yeah, thanks. All right, hold on.
Folks see that? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the first page that Alec has presented is the statement of financial positions. This just summarizes the assets and liabilities and net fund position at December 31st. And as Kate previously mentioned, you've got $1,776,000 in assets, which is made up of primarily made up of cash in the operating accounts of in a savings account of $1,072,000, and then about $700,000 in GICs and savings accounts to get to the $1,776,000, and then that amount of money relates to the deferred revenue that comes in before the end of December that relates to the next membership licensing year that's received in advance of that. So there's about $900,000 in deferred revenue. There's about $69,000 in accounts payable and accrued liabilities. So that would include any expenditures incurred but not paid for at December 31st, accrual for any payroll that might have staggered the year-end date, and accrual for the audit fee and things like that. And then you have a net fund balance position of about $801,000, which is broken down between the operating fund of about $100,000, the operational reserve and discipline fund, which have about $700,000 in them. So as Kate alluded, you've got a solid foundation of reserves to help you, cover any challenges that you may foresee in the coming year. So that's the statement of financial position. Then we have the statement of revenue and expenses. So this just provides sort of a summary snapshot. Revenues, as Kate mentioned, $1,080,000, up about 7% over last year, and primarily driven by an increase in membership licensing fees and some additional revenues from advertising and the telemarketing or telepractice registrations. On the expense side, you came in about 2% over last year, $958,000 versus $938,000. Administrative expenses dropped slightly over last year, and also from budget, primarily due to less legal fees related to the complaints and disciplinary issues. Personnel costs were up about 6% over last year, and so overall the expenses increased by 2% to $958,000, which gave you an excess of operating revenues over expenses of $121,000 before special projects. And there was $37,000 spent on special projects, so that left you with a current operating surplus of $84,000. And the full financial statements would provide more the various comments on the accounting policies and more details on the individual expense line items and things like that. But I don't propose to go into those in any detail. So in summary, those are the audited financial statements for December 31st, 2022.
Excellent. Thanks, Graham.
Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. And so back to Kate.
So I believe now we're just looking for a motion to accept the 2022 audit from Lyle, Tilley and Davidson.
Yeah, I was going to allow you to do the presentation of the budget first, and then we'll do, or no, sorry. Okay, no, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. So, yeah, can I have a motion to accept the auditor's report?
I can move.
Okay, Kate, and a seconder. I see Donna, I think, was the first.
You have to sort of jostle them to wake them up after the financial statement.
Okay, and so we'll hold the vote, the discussion and vote until we finish these financial pieces here. So our next item, though, in this same.
Sorry, Todd. Let's call the vote to accept the auditor's report so that Graham can then get on with his Saturday.
I guess so. All right. Okay. Anyone opposed to receiving and accepting the auditor's report? And any abstentions? Okay, carried.
Thanks,
Great.
Graham. Really appreciate you coming out and your work.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, folks. Enjoy the rest of your meeting. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Thanks.
Okay, and let's go back, Todd. Let's accept Kate's report, and then we'll move on to the 2024 budget as well.
Okay, I was thinking about all of those as a cluster, so, but that's fine. We'll separate those. So can we have a motion to receive the treasurer's report? Despite the typo in this slide.
Apologies.
Jim Norton and Anamika. Okay, thank you. And discussion. Any questions for Kate? Make them really tough ones, because she's a numbers person. Mina, can we unmute Mina?
Okay, hi, thanks.
Did I pronounce your name right, Mina?
You did actually, yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
So I was just curious about when you talk about kind of investing, so that so I don't really understand what that means. And so can you just talk about what that means, that a certain number, 700,000 or whatever, is invested?
Yeah, so the college has a policy regarding its surplus revenues. They are invested in guaranteed income certificates from our credit union. They garner small amounts of interest every year, but we are required to keep those investments for operational reserves as well as discipline reserves.
Does that answer your question, Mina? You're still muted, so I don't know if you can unmute yourself and just to clarify that. Okay, well, I can't. All right. All right, I'm assuming that answers your question though, Mina, but if it doesn't, then just type in the chat any further questions.
Okay, there, I was just able to
Okay.
unmute. It does, so it's not like it's being invested in certain companies that maybe that we may not want to be investing in.
We have a very conservative portfolio of just GICs for the very reasons you raised. How could
Yeah,
we ethically
okay.
invest in capitalism when we
Yeah,
are?
okay, cool.
Yeah,
Most-
so yeah,
Most of it's
Thank
in
you.
shares of Twitter.
yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments or discussion? Okay, so anyone opposed to receiving this report? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, so then Alec, I assume we move on to the appointment of auditors and then the presentation of the budget in that order?
Correct. Yeah.
As per the agenda, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so can we have a motion to appoint Lyle Tilly Davidson as the auditors for our 2023 fiscal year?
I can make that motion as well.
Kate, and a seconder? Rochelle, thank you. And we had Crystal and Rochelle like on Jeopardy, you know, seeing who could push the button quicker. That's great. And so any discussion on this motion? I'm going to assume none. I don't think in my 150 years of doing this kind of thing, I've ever heard discussion on who is appointed as the auditor. So, all right. So anyone opposed to the motion? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Let's move on to presentation of the 2024 budget. This is where Kate tells us how she's planning on buying herself a Lamborghini.
Yeah, what to do with all that Twitter money. Okay, so budget 2024. You can find the detailed budget on page 43 of the annual report. If you want to look at the details, and again, if anything comes up later on that you want to discuss, just let me know. We are, as you'll see, projecting a revenue of $1,124,179. This includes a 1% increase in fees, which is approximately $4 per member. Council recognizes that college fees can be a barrier, and so knowing that we've decided to implement, a couple of years ago, we decided to implement small increases with inflation every year so that we can avoid any substantial increases in the future. Council felt it was essential to increase staff compensation, in particular this year with the cost of living, and that is supported by this modest increase in fees. As members, we've all experienced the excellent work that staff have been doing. We've been talking about that a lot today, and I think we see it every day in our work, and supporting them in this way is the right thing to do. So increases to salaries, benefits, and related expenses bring our total human resources expenditures this year, the personnel line there, to a projected $654,000. Program expenses are expected to remain nearly the same this year, coming in at a projected $174,300. Administrative costs are also expected to remain in keeping with last year. but we are budgeting, you'll see, for an increase in our membership fees to the Canadian Association of Social Workers. The CASW has asked for their first membership cost increase in many years, several years, and we have the funds to fill the request, and so we will have that increase in cost, and also a nominal increase to things like staff cell phones, and you'll see there's an increase in banking fees and some stationary costs as well. Administrative costs are expected to come in at $290,000. Projected revenues for 2024, as I mentioned, are $1,124,000, and projected expenses are $1,118,970, projecting a modest surplus of $5,208. And as usual, this surplus would be put toward advocacy in the public interest and promotion of the profession.
Thank you, Kate. So let's call for a motion. Someone want to make a motion to approve this budget? Jim Morton and Donna Lemoyne. Okay, that's motion and a movement and a seconder. So any discussion? People have questions, comments? Well, you got to ask some tough financial questions for Kate. I mean, just to add some fun to our Saturday. No, any comments, any questions? No. Okay. Then is anyone opposed to accepting this budget? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Okay. So now, what we've had is a number of the pieces of the annual report. So, but this is a motion to accept the entire report fully. And so, would someone like to make this motion? Jackie and Linda Clark. Okay, thank you very much. And any discussion about the annual report, about this motion to accept? No. Okay. Anyone opposed to the motion? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Moving on to announcement of council elections and appointments. And so Alec will update us on this.
Yeah, thanks, folks. So this will be a plug as well. We have, as you can see, dedicated, passionate members who volunteer to serve the profession and govern the college, who are outstanding in their work. Big thank you to Kate and Todd, who are part of your leadership team, as well as the other council members who are joining us here today. We're going to talk about Todd in a moment, but I did want to mention that we did have nominations opened throughout the months of February and March. And I'm very grateful for Michelle Ward for stepping forward to put their name down to be the college's new vice president. Michelle Ward has served in many roles, including as a public member on the Law Society, as well as the president of the Family Resource Association sector, and runs a Family Resource Center herself. We've worked closely on issues of child welfare, and I'm very delighted that Michelle has stepped up. Kate has agreed to be your treasurer for another 2 years. So thank you for that, Kate. Lori Eller is entering her final term as your secretary. Thank you for that, Lori. Donna Lemoyne is entering her third term as central rep, and Ian Ford is entering his second term in the Western region. We do have vacant positions, so this is a plug. We'd love to have you. At this point in time, these move to appointments by council. So there is a vacancy for Central Region. So that's the Halifax area, which many of you live in. So if anyone's interested in filling that, please reach out before June, and would certainly be considered. We are also, although Crystal Hill has served, and I see Crystal here today, the college in so many ways is chairing our decolonizing committee right now, is a member of the Millbrook First Nation. Technically, Crystal fills our northern rep zone. So there is a designated Indigenous representative that is still available on the council position. So we'd love to see those filled and move forward. I do want to take some time to thank this guy, Todd Leader. Todd Leader is finishing 6 years as your vice president. We are deeply grateful for Todd's leadership, his immense dedication and service to the College of Social Workers over the past 6 years. As vice president, he's made a profound impact on the profession by leading advocacy in the fields of mental health, addictions, health promotion, and primary care, as well as as you've seen, he stepped in to chair today and on Thursday night, as he did last year as well. And again, his ability to lighten the mood with a joke or a clever anecdote has been a great asset in his role as vice president. Humor is an amazing leadership trait and quality, and has allowed us to build an atmosphere of trust and cooperation and collaboration amongst council members. I'm thanking you, Todd. I know all your fellow council members feel the same way, and we celebrate you in your leadership role, and know that you'll likely be back because we like you and would like to see you. So
thank you for
that. So again, if you want to put your applause button on or put a thumbs up, helping me thank Todd.
Well, if I can say a word or two, I certainly plan to come back in some role, and mainly because it's funny how our own perceptions of ourselves are different from other people's perceptions, perhaps. But I don't think my contribution has been as much as it should have been, mainly because of going through some illness in the first few years of it. But so I'm going to come back and in some form and keep contributing. So thank you all for your thanks and comments.
Thank you. And Rebecca just clarified, my apologies, Crystal, you're not a member of the Millbrook Nation, you're a member of the Glooscap Nation. My apologies for making that mistake. We're grateful to you, Crystal, and are so happy you're on our council and leading us as well.
Excellent. Okay. And so we don't have to make any motions related to that. And so we are simply going to move to adjourn now. And I don't think we don't need a motion for that.
Nope, we finished our agenda.
So this meeting is adjourned. And so please remember that at 10:30, I believe the schedule begins for the conference for the day. And there's a great lineup of thought-provoking professional development sessions. So please make sure you take in as much of that as you can.
Naj, any direction for this crew? Nope. Okay. Oh, hang on. Thought you were co-host. There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we are excited. We are still starting at 10:30. We've got different Zoom logins, so you should have received an email. It's the same link as you used yesterday. But you'll have received an email at 8:30 this morning, so check your junk file if you didn't get it. And we look forward to seeing everyone at 10:30 for another amazing session, including our keynote for this year and last year, who will be on this awesome panel today at 1:45. So hope to see you soon.